Hello and welcome to the Study CIMA discussion of the February 2018 operational case study. My name is Hashan Madushanka and I'm the lead tutor for Study CIMA. I have been coaching students since February 2015, ever since the case study style exam started. And I have coached more than 2000 students globally from almost all the countries that offer CIMA. Now, this might be your first time facing the operational case study exam, or even if you're a candidate that is repeating the exam. Let me initially emphasize you on how important it is to get together with a study material provider, and make sure that you pass the February 2018 operational case study. So it's very important to have good analysis materials such as pre-seen videos, strategic analysis, and so on. And more importantly, it's very important to make sure that you attempt mock exams under simulated exam conditions. And as per my experience, I can recommend you that you need at least 5 mock exams to have a good feel regarding the operational case study exam. Right, so let's get started. So it's very clear as to what the industry is. Actually, it's crystal clear. So it seems like a company to do with crystal glass. And we have the content given here, around 23 pages of the pre-seen. So that's generally the standard, 20 to 25 pages. Looking at the first page, the introduction. King Crystal, so that's the name of the company we are dealing with for the next couple of weeks. And you have to imagine that you are employed in this company until your case study exam is over. King Crystal is a company based in the northern hemisphere in the country of Giggland. Right, so northern hemisphere, that's half of Earth, so you cannot exactly be specific with the area in which this country is based. So it could be in the United States or North America rather. It could be Europe, somewhere around Russia. Right, so that's a wide area. And may I remind you that Giggland is obviously a fictitious country, an imaginary country. Now, with my experience, I have seen that certain students, they try to do extensive research and find out what this country is resembling with compared to the real world countries. Please do not do that mistake, since it adds no value for you at all at your final exam. Remember, this is a completely made up country, right? So some factors, some conditions may resemble with another country, but it does not mean that you need to do in-depth research regarding the real world countries, right? So just go along the flow. So it's an imaginary country. And what you need to do, however, is use the pre-seen to understand the conditions of this country in terms of various aspects. Now, in our E1 subject, we have come across a particular analysis called the Pestle Analysis, where you analyze the macroeconomic conditions of a country. So referring to the political conditions, how strong the economy is, what are the economic factors such as inflation. Then looking at social conditions, we know that crystal glass is very much close to having prestige and certain family functions and gifts and so on. Then of course you have technology, how developed is the technology in the country that would be useful for production. The ecological conditions, the weather conditions and environmental related aspects, and finally the legal conditions. So these are the things that you need to worry about in terms of Giggland, and not which country it bears resemblance with. And we see that the currency is the G dollar. Once again, an imaginary currency. Please do not perceive this currency as the US dollar or any other dollar. This is purely made up currency. But what you need to worry, however, is how this currency can affect in your exam. So one small example I can point out directly from your F1 syllabus is the standard IAS 21, which is relevant to foreign exchange or foreign currency transactions, right? So having a good knowledge about how to account for any foreign transactions is important, especially if we are importing or exporting certain items. Okay, King Crystal is a manufacturer of high quality hand blown crystal. Right. So generally there are three sectors in businesses. It could be a manufacturer, it could be a retailer that buys and sells, or it could even be a service provider. So in our case, it's very clear as to what it is. It's a manufacturer. So knowing that it is a manufacturer, we can link this with certain areas in our syllabus from the three subjects, E1, P1 and F1. So let me just go through some of the examples. So we know that if it's a manufacturer, they might possibly have a standard product, and if they do, they would generally come up with a standard cost card, like the amount of material, labor requirement required, and also along with that we can come up with the selling price. And also this would be a performance evaluation tool, since we can calculate variances at the end of a period, right? And in terms of E1, we have operations management, where we can look at what sort of inventory management we should focus on, how to manage our capacity planning strategies, and we could even consider introducing lean management, total quality management, of course. Then in F1, we might need assets, manufacturing equipment. How do we account for these? Are we revaluing our asset base? Right? So many different aspects that you can link into, knowing that we are a manufacturer. And of course, the second item I underlined, or highlighted rather, is the fact that we have high quality products. So we can link this with Porter's generic strategies, where Porter has mentioned if you want to be successful, you can choose one of the two, which is either cost leadership or differentiation. Cost leadership is, of course, making use of economies of scale and possibly looking at cost efficiencies and providing a low price. However, crystal, as we know, is considered to be an upmarket or prestigious product, which means we should ideally be looking at a differentiation strategy, where we provide high quality products at a premium price. And of course, we should also look at the focus, whether we are targeting the overall market or a particular market niche. Right, so hand blown crystal. So I would recommend you all to do some research on this. Well, actually, we would save you some time in that aspect, since CIMA package includes an industry analysis of around 30 to 35 pages, where we have broadly analyzed regarding this industry using a real world company, a couple of real world companies rather. What are the environmental effects and how the production process works, right? So it's very informative. Now, information on the industry, it's not a must, but then you need to understand what sort of company you are working for. Although it's a simulated work environment, it's nice to know as to the different aspects of the real world industry, which you can be influenced by or inspired by when you're giving out your answers. So what exactly is crystal? That is something that you need to understand. Crystal is the highest quality of glassware that can be produced. Now, the difference between glass and crystal will be explained in very high level of detail towards the next few pages. And I would recommend you to check out a few videos on YouTube on how this hand blowing crystal is made. It was quite amazing when I checked out these videos. Uh, it's really fantastic the way that the process is carried out. You really get attracted to the entire process. So my recommendation is check out a few videos. King Crystal makes 4 different types of products: drinking glasses, jugs, bowls, and vases. Right, so the product portfolio is important for us. We need to understand how much of attention that they need to give, and also portfolio management is necessary. We have a model in E1 that looks at portfolio management, which is of course the Boston matrix, which analyzes the products in terms of market size and the market growth. And also in terms of P1, we need to make decisions regarding product categories, whether we should continue a product or discontinue. So the factors that you need to consider financially would be the incremental or the avoidable cost, right? So these are little things that you need to recap from your subject matter. And they have 4 different types of products in a number of sizes and ranges, right? So this also got me to think about the relevance of a costing system, right? So generally when you have a quite a large portfolio, a considerable portfolio where the diversity between products are high, then it would be ideal to use an activity based costing system, and provided that there are quite a number of batch level activities going on, right? So as we move along the pre-scene, we should be able to understand what exact features of this company would make ABC either relevant or not relevant. So let's find it out later on. All products are handcrafted by highly skilled glass blowers. Alright, so quite a labor intensive business that we see, and provided that they have high quality products, they are focusing on looking at handcrafted crystal, because that is a general feature in this industry. All the designs that you see in crystal glasses and all, most of the time are handcrafted, and so there can be very minor differences between 2 units of the same range, right? And glass blowing is of course a very interesting area. As I mentioned, it's nice if you can watch some videos on this. That will give you a good understanding. So another feature that you see in a company that follows differentiation is that most of the employees are highly skilled, and of course they get a high remuneration on behalf of this, which is of course touching HR. Some of the products that are made today are the same design as when the business started, and initially the initial line of the next paragraph tells us when the company started. It is in 1968. Back to the last line of the first paragraph, some of the products that are made today are the same design as when the business started. Now, there could be a couple of reasons for this. Possibly because the designs that originated when the company started, they are still in fashion, or people still prefer that. Or it could even be that the management of the company, they are not very keen on bringing out changes in terms of product features. Maybe they are highly reliant, or they are resistant to change, right? And if of course the sales of the company are declining, but still they are not willing to change product designs, well, that would be a significant management loophole, or management weakness rather. So this also we can find out as we read along. So King Crystal was established in 1968, so half a century ago. So celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, by Joseph King. So that's the founder. Joseph learned his glass blowing skills as an apprentice with the largest crystal manufacturer in the neighboring country of Beeland. Right, so something that I have seen from my experience in past variants is that there's a tendency for the company that we are looking at to possibly expand into neighboring countries, right? So depending on the level of competition, and it's even possible that we might face competition from companies moving from those countries. So something that we need to look out for or be prepared for, possibly, right? So there might be a particular reason as to why Joseph followed an apprenticeship with the manufacturer in the neighboring country instead of Gigland. After a 4-year apprenticeship and a further 6 years of experience, Joseph qualified as a master glassblower. So in terms of glass blowing, there are different grades. So you have the master glassblower, who would have at least 6 years of experience, and of course you have qualified glassblowers who has finished the apprenticeship and looking to be a glassblower, and you also have trainee glassblowers who are pursuing the apprenticeship program, right? After qualifying, Joseph returned to Gigland and purchased a disused textile factory on the edge of a large town called Templeton. Here he installed a furnace and started the business. King Crystal is still based on the same single site, although additional land was purchased in 1980 for the construction of a warehouse and offices. Right, so when looking at this particular area, we understand that they are still operating in this area. So when it comes to picking out an area of operation or construction of a factory, we need to look at several factors such as the availability of skilled employees, the infrastructure, and how it is connected to the major motorways and so on, so that we can transport easily, and what sort of a attitude the local community would have, how the regional authorities would support us. So those are things that they would have considered originally, and for them to operate in this for the last 50 years, it seems like that the conditions are pretty good. Now, regarding the purchase of additional land, and also the construction, so this should get you thinking about a particular standard that can be tested in your F1, which is of course IAS 16. How exactly would you account for capital expenditure, or what are the different costs that you account for as capital expenditure and what do you expense, right? So almost in every past exams I have seen at least one variant having testing your knowledge on IAS 16. And another thing that they should take into account would be whether the asset base is valued using the cost value basis or a revaluation basis. So having the same land for 50 years, now it would have highly appreciated, right? Although there is a tendency that we are still recording it at the cost value, at the price that we originally bought it for, and that would highly undervalue or understate our asset values. So if the case is such, then there's a tendency at your exam that you might be questioned on what would be a better approach and how exactly would you carry out a revaluation, right? Initially the business was very small, with all products fully crafted by hand. The business grew steadily, and in 1980 Joseph won a contract to supply a large department store in Gigland. So seems like this is the turning point of the business where they had to scale. As a result of this contract, additional furnaces and equipment were installed. So once again, going back to what I explained a while ago about IAS 16, right? When you purchase machinery and equipment, the accounting treatment for it. Now, supplying to a large department store seems like this is more of a B2B model, right? So far, no indication about them supplying directly to the final customer. So from our knowledge in E1, we need to be thorough with the differences in B2B and B2C marketing strategies. So B2B, you might have to possibly give a longer credit period, better prices, better relationship, and so on. Moving on. In 2000, Joseph decided to retire, and as he had no children to leave the business to, he sold it to a group of 4 of his managers in a management buyout. So I'm sure all of you are aware of what a management buyout means. So that is where the existing management buys over the shares of the company and then runs it, right, from or takes it over from the previous shareholders. Each manager purchased, of course, 25% of the equity. So 4 managers, 25% each, equal ownership. So this happened in the year 2000. So after controlling and managing the company for 32 years, from 1968, Joseph retired. So possibly we might not hear about Joseph again in the perspective of this business, of course, since he has already retired, and it's been 18 years. In the first 10 years after the MBO, the business invested in new furnaces and a new finishing line using a combination of debt finance and cash generated in the business. Right now, methods of financing is not heavily tested in operational case study, since it's more in line with F2, which is for the management case. However, when considering debt finance, we could look at short-term or long-term sources. So that would be relevant for our F1 subject, because working capital management looks at different management policies such as aggressive, conservative, and moderate. Despite losing Joseph, the business retained its reputation for high quality, handcrafted products that could be sold at premium prices. Now, this is generally a challenge for a small scale business that is following more of an entrepreneurial structure, since the absence of the original owner could disrupt business processes and, of course, the relationships it maintains with its key stakeholders. However, it's nice to see that the company has managed this change quite effectively, and as we understand, it's a matter of time until things just cool down. So possibly when Joseph retired in 2000, during those times there might have been certain issues, but then again, considering the fact that it's the existing management that continued, the amount of resistance and disruption would have been minimum. And as we see today, King Crystal has a worldwide reputation for producing clear crystal of the highest quality. So a small scale business that started in Templeton in England has now been popular worldwide and has a reputation for high quality products, which is a very nice sign. King Crystal products are popular as gift items to mark important occasions such as weddings and milestone birthdays. So we understand that these products rather have an emotional attachment, right? So crystal is generally an item that most people buy generally to showcase it rather than use it daily. But during certain special occasions, of course, they might bring out the set of crystal glasses for a glass of wine, possibly, right? So these are also durable products, and these are not products that are purchased on a regular basis, as you see, right? So very popular for gift items. Currently, the business has revenue in the region of 15 million G dollars a year and employs 110 people, right? So the 15 million, well, it's an absolute value, so we are not so sure whether how significant this is, right? So we need to compare possibly with the company's past performance and also benchmark against the revenues of other companies in the same industry. Then we should be able to understand whether this is a good figure or not. So it also employs 110 people. So talking about people, we know that HR is a very important aspect in E1. So the processes in the HR cycle, recruitment, selection, training, appraisal, retention, those are things that can definitely be tested. So we need to see how exactly King Crystal is managing these 110 people that are currently working. How are they arranged in departments? What are their pay rates like? Are they having safe working conditions? Now, the safety of working conditions is extremely important considering this industry, since glass blowing is an activity where you can get exposed to certain risks, right? Since they work with molten crystal, which is heated to very high temperatures, more than even 300, 400 degrees, and working around with this molten crystal and converting them into the glass, into crystal rather, through blowing pipes. Well, there are many risks that they can be exposed to, right? So if they don't have safety equipment and uh, protective protective processes, that can be really bad on the company, and the company has an ethical obligation to make sure that the lives of their workers are of course safeguarded. Another thing that they need to look at would be the labor turnover, particularly if glass blowers are not in high supply, right? So if there aren't many glass blowers in the region or in the country, well, in that case, King Crystal has to make sure that it somehow retains the top talent, so that the processes continue smoothly. Only one of the original MBO team still works in the business, the others having retired in the last 5 years. Right? So the extent of influence that the other members had on the company would play a role in how the company would have managed the change. So we have one member, that's Paolo Aldo, who is still working in the business. Paolo still owns 55% of the shares, so the majority shareholder, as we know, and the remaining 45% still in the hands of the retired MBO managers. So the managers that retired, the three managers that retired, of course, may still play a role in the business, maybe not a hands-on role, maybe not an everyday role, but definitely during general meetings that shareholder meetings that they conduct, they might still be providing valuable input, valuable feedback into the process. King Crystal prides itself as a fair employer, paying above the national minimum wage to unskilled employees and providing a comprehensive apprenticeship program for glass blowers with the competitive pay rates. Right, so fair employer. To be a fair employer, you have to consider many aspects. Uh, a generous pay is just one of them, right? And we understand that they are not trying to exploit unskilled employees, but instead paying above the guaranteed minimum. And they're also emphasizing on the educational levels of the employees, since they are looking at comprehensive apprenticeship programs. Now that would be a win-win situation, since when you support the employees to the apprentices to obtain the qualification by providing them a working opportunity, after working they might get attracted to working conditions and even consider continuing with King Crystal itself, right? And King Crystal would be more than happy to put them on the full-time payroll, since being an apprentice exposes them to the conditions of the company and familiarize them with the work practices, and that would save on training, right? So rather than the apprentice leaving and a new person coming in and being trained, it's always easier to have apprentices converting into full-time employees. Further, King Crystal also prides itself as a champion of its local community. with sponsorship of a number of community art and craft groups, as well as a program for planting trees locally. Okay, so this is definitely linked to a very important part of E1, which is of course corporate social responsibility. So there are different types of CSR that we are looking at, and here we are looking at social responsibility by sponsorship of community arts and craft groups. So it's very much in line with the industry, since crystal itself is an art, right? So not only just the production, but also the designs that you find in crystal glasses, right? Some of them, it's simply unbelievable as to how exactly uh, the workers pulled it off, because it's so very well done, right? So it's a fine art, and sponsorship of community arts is very much in line with the business strategy, and that would immensely benefit them, since you find people who appreciate arts, they would consider purchasing crystal products, because it's an artistic it is of artistic value. And of course, planting trees locally, that is the ecological responsibility. Now we know environmental management accounting is a part of P1, and it's not simply the accounting technique, but how much the company is doing for the environment, how much or what are the actions it takes to mitigate environmental harm. So this is definitely a very appreciable move, right? Because global warming is causing a lot of problems, as we understand, right? And it's a global concern. So this is definitely a very good move in terms of CSR, right? So that is some sneak peek into the aspects of the company and introduction. Now looking at what you have to do, your role. So you're the finance officer, right? So as with almost every pre-scene, this is the standard position, right? So it's also called the assistant management accountant or junior accountant. You're the finance officer in the finance department of King Crystal. You're principally responsible for preparing management accounting information. Although given the size of the business, you're often asked to perform tasks in other areas of the business. So as your operational case study examiner promises, the main trigger of your exam is P1, and which is the name of the subject is of course management accounting. And as an employee in the finance department, generally you have to be involved with management accounting related tasks, where you're helping out the company in three main aspects, which is planning, controlling, and decision making. So you will have many challenges and many work allocated to you, different types of work, such as interpreting variances, giving your feedback on the costing system, looking at special orders and how to price it using relevant costing, right? So what are the different risks that we are exposed to, and how do we make a decision based on the risk attitude of the company, right? And what quantity that should we sell to break even or to achieve a particular amount of profit, right? So these are the different aspects of P1. And of course, management accounting is for internal use, but do also remember that you need to prepare statements. Possibly this is although it's not a listed company, it is of course a private limited company, which means they have to prepare financial statements and get them audited, right? Now especially due to the fact that three of the four managers are not actively involved in the business anymore. Only Paolo Aldo is a shareholder as well as a director. And so the other three directors or other three former directors would be interested in knowing how the business has performed. So financial reporting, complying with standards, working capital management policies are also important in your job role. and of course moving away from finance. Now P1 and F1 are involved in the finance function, of course, but E1 we are looking at other functions of the business such as HR, purchasing, IT, operations management, and so on. So as the last line says, you are often asked to perform tasks in other areas of the business. So you might have to give feedback on the different, let's say, marketing strategies that can be used, how to maximize the efficiency of operations, and what would be, or how do we switch to a new IT system if it's planned to be introduced, right? So those are different aspects that you can be tested on. Now, having just go through some past variants would help you understand what sort of requirements that you can expect at your exam. Right, so that brings an end to the introductory video of the February 2018 pre-scene. However, we have a complete set of videos analyzing the entire pre-scene, which would of course immensely benefit you for the exam. And apart from that, we also have packages that are made for you to gear you up for the final exam. So our packages consist of other analysis documents, a workbook customized for this industry, and of course 5 mock exams that are directly involved with King Crystal that can be practiced in our online exam platform. So I will include the link at the bottom, and you can follow this link and check out information. And also we have free material that you can access, right? So you can visit our website and you can subscribe for these material. I will also include a link for that. So I would like to remind you that you have a couple of weeks more left. Please make sure that you formulate a personal plan for yourself, right? And make sure that you work according to that plan. And let me also remind you that we operate a WhatsApp group where we have students globally, students worldwide that are hoping to sit for the operational case study, and our tutors will be more than happy to guide you throughout the process. Even give you a study plan for the next few weeks, and also to help clarify your queries. So if you are interested in joining this WhatsApp group, please drop a comment below, and we shall add you up. So you can visit our website and look at the different products that we offer. And last but not least, I wish you all the very best with your operational case study exams. Thank you.